Good morning everyone, welcome to Friday's assembly. Now before we start anything else, are you all feeling exhausted? I certainly hope so, because I am hoping that you have just finished, or perhaps finished earlier this morning or today, the SJF big workout. Thank you so much to Mr. Coombs and to the reception class pods who helped us and led us through that great workout earlier on, which I bet really had your legs aching and your heart thumping and pumping. So now that we've caught our breath, let's join our hands together and offer our day to God. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father in heaven, I give you today all that I think and do and say. Amen. So what a week it's been. What a week of being fit and active and having lots of fun. And also thinking about what we do to keep our minds fit and healthy and feeling great, as well as our bodies. Now, I've been able to drop into some of your Google Classrooms this week, and I can see that quite a few of you have sent us pictures, and some of you even videos, of the things that you've been doing at home to keep fit and active. And later on, when we hear from Mrs. Mackay, I'm sure we'll find out more about those. Have a think back though for me now to Monday's assembly. Now, the pictures I'm going to show you next, some of them were also in Monday's assembly. Have a little look and see if you recognise which ones were there on Monday, and also if you can name any of those athletes and the sports that they compete in. Let's take a look. So we've got a gymnast, Simone Biles. We've got Ellie Simmonds, who was a Paralympic swimmer. We've got another swimmer there, Michael Phelps, and David Weir, who is another Paralympian that takes part in long distance road races. Now they're different sports, two swimmers, but different sports. But there's something that links all of those athletes together. Two of them are Paralympians, and as we know, in the Paralympics, athletes who have any kind of disabilities or difficulties get the opportunity to compete alongside other athletes. And I'm sure lots of you have watched many different events with para-athletes taking part in them. But the other two competitors on there, Michael Phelps and Simone Biles, they have something that joins them in common as well. Both of those athletes have a condition called ADHD, which can make it tricky to concentrate sometimes, and perhaps tricky as well to do the things that other people do in exactly the same way. So what joins all of those athletes together is that they are inspirational in their sports. Not only are they amazing athletes, but actually they've had some tricky barriers to overcome to be inspirational in their sports. Well, I want to show you a picture of another very inspirational athlete now. Take a look. I wonder if any of you recognise him. It doesn't look at the moment, does it, from that picture, as if he's dressed for athletics or sports in any way. I wonder if you can have a guess which sport he might be inspirational in. Which sport does he inspire others to want to do? Well, this gentleman's name is Cliff Young, and I'm going to tell you the story of Cliff Young and why he is quite such an inspirational athlete. Every year in Australia, some of the most brilliant, fittest and most dedicated athletes in the southern hemisphere, that's the southern part of the world, run in a long distance race. But it isn't any ordinary long distance race. The brilliant, fittest and most dedicated athletes run all the way from the capital of New South Wales, which is called Sydney, to the capital of Victoria, which is called Melbourne. Have a little look on the map here. First of all, we can see the size of Australia, and then you can see that red route running from Sydney to Melbourne. It's a very long way. In fact, it's a distance of just under 900 kilometres. And it takes the very best, the most brilliant, the fittest and most dedicated of athletes 8 days, roughly, to run it. Now, back in 1983, see if you can work out how many years ago that was later on, the most brilliant, fittest and dedicated athletes were all lined up at the start line for this, the very first running of this race. They were young, they had very big support teams, they were wearing the latest, most expensive trainers, all the right sports gear. When an old man shuffled up to join them on the start line. At first, everybody thought he was a spectator, one of the people watching who just got lost. He had on long blue trousers and a long sleeve white shirt and an ordinary pair of shoes that were a bit scuffed and looked like they wouldn't take much running. His name was Cliff Young, and he had decided that he wanted to run against the most brilliant, fittest and dedicated athletes in the Southern Hemisphere in the longest race in the world. Everyone laughed at him. How could a 61-year-old man in a pair of old shoes possibly take part in a race against the youngest, fittest and the best trained? The laughs turned from quiet sniggers into huge, great big roars when the gun went off. Cliff couldn't even run properly. He did a sort of strange one-legged shuffle run and limped along as the other athletes sped off in front of him. Everyone laughed at Cliff. Everyone thought he was a no-hoper, a joke and a silly old man. What they didn't know was that Cliff had lived all of his life on a huge farm, and he'd spent many years running hundreds of miles for days without sleep, rounding up sheep. All the most brilliant, fittest and most dedicated athletes ran for 16 hours and slept for 8, because that makes 24 hours. But Cliff didn't have a big support team, had never run a race like this. He almost didn't realise that you needed to stop to sleep. So, when all the most brilliant, dedicated and fittest athletes were sleeping in their tents, Cliff was still shuffle running along. By morning on the second day of the race, reporters were amazed to find that this no-hoper joke, this silly old man, was in the lead. By the morning of the third day, he was further in the lead, and by the end of the 5th day, Cliff had finished and won the race. All the most brilliant, fittest and most dedicated athletes were over 200 kilometres behind him. Cliff changed the way the race was run. No one sleeps on that race anymore, and it turns out that his one-legged shuffle run wasn't a joke. It was the best way of him preserving and keeping some energy so that he could keep going over such a long distance. Now, the lesson is that appearances can be deceptive. Things that we see aren't always necessarily what they really turn out to be. You might have the flashiest clothes and the nicest gear for sport, the most up-to-date equipment, but actually, unless you have what's inside you, just like Cliff, you won't have the determination that he showed in that amazing race. What did Cliff's performance do to the beliefs of the runners? Not just for that year, but year after and year after. They made them think that when you change what you believe, they thought they all had to sleep they thought they all had to rest. But when you change that belief, you can change the way you perform. And Cliff certainly proved that to the athletes that went on to run in that race year after year. They changed the belief of what was possible, and therefore they changed the way they were able to perform. So Cliff might not have looked from that first photograph of him in the same league as those other inspirational athletes, but most certainly what he did in those days back in 1983 of that longest race in the world proved that belief really can make a difference. Now, quite a few weeks ago, we talked about a special prayer to help us in tough times, and I'm sure that Cliff probably found many parts of those days of the race very tough. And that prayer was a prayer to our guardian angel. Let's join our hands together now and say that prayer again. Angel of God, my guardian dear, to whom God's love commits me here, ever this night be at my side, to light and guard, to rule and guide. Amen. Now that prayer, I've said night, we can put day in and we can say our prayer to our guardian angel at any time of the day or night. So it's a great prayer for the morning and for bedtime too. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Now this week's hymn is a special treat. It's a hymn that's been chosen because listening to Cliff's story has made me think about not just my guardian angel, but who I would want at my side in the toughest of times. So the hymn is Walk With Me, O My Lord. But this week we have some special guest vocalists, some singers for you to sing along with. So thank you very much indeed to Year 6 Green Pod, who very kindly recorded the vocals for this hymn this week. So there's no watching Mrs. Farrell and Mrs. Royce, but listening and joining in with Year 6 Green Pod. Walk with me, O my Lord. beginning of assembly, we talked about the brilliant things that you have been getting up to in this Sports and Wellbeing Week. And some of you have certainly been super active, whether it's taking part in the challenges that have been put on Google Classroom every day, or if you've been in school, getting out, getting in the playground and using your pod PE equipment to make up all kinds of wonderful games. I saw some great tugs of war going on with our Year 1 children earlier on in the week. So you've been super active and super creative. Some of you I know have been very active all the way through the lockdown, been out with parents and families on long bike rides, runs and walks, and many of you have written in to tell us all about that. This week, remember, I set 2 Building Better Learning challenges. For those learning in school, we were looking for people with very good sportsmanship, people who were always cheering each other on, happy to lose as well as to win. And at home, we were looking for people who just simply kept really fit and active this week, but maybe all the other weeks that they've been at home too. So to find out who our winners are, let's hand over to Mrs. Mackay.
Good morning, everyone, and what a wonderful sports week it's been, even if we've had to spend a fair amount of time dodging the rain. So 2 lots of winners this week. We have great sportsmanship shown at school and sporting superstars from home. Let's start with our winners from school. Bronze. Mr. Walton was very impressed with this reception pupil's all-round sportsmanlike behaviour and participation. Well done, Aviana. Very impressive. Silver. This pupil was nominated by Miss MacDonald. She said he has been such a good sport, giving everything in the Year 1 challenges a really good go, from balancing beanbags to some fantastic hopping. Excellent work, Jamie. Be proud. The Gold Award goes to a pupil who received nominations from 2 members of staff. He took part with tremendous enthusiasm and energy in the big workout video and has shown spectacular gamesmanship all week. Aidan, you really impressed both Mrs. Pryor and Mr. Coombs, and you are a very worthy school gold winner. So now on to looking at our sporting superstars from home. Bronze goes to someone in Year 2 who has completed lots of activities. She timed herself and then repeated them, having another go to try and beat her time and improve. Well done, Florence. Silver. This goes to a brother and sister combo who have worked really hard together doing a wide variety of sports, sharing their love of being active. I really enjoyed seeing you have a go at the wheelbarrow race. Sasha and Calum, you are excellent superstar partners. The Gold Award for Sports Superstars goes to a family team of siblings. They have undertaken a phenomenal range of sporting activities: yoga, football, skipping, racing, jumping, and most recently teaching themselves to skateboard. I particularly liked hearing about your frisbee throwing and making Clementine fetch the frisbee each time. So you, Clementine, along with your sisters Iris, Pearl and Renee, really are what sport is all about. A whole team of superstars. Well done. What a lot of winners this week. Make sure you watch the big workout and see if you can spot Aidan giving it his all. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Well done to all of those winners, and well done to everybody at home and at school for the beanbag balancing or the sock balancing if you're at home, the hopping, the skipping, the jumping, the throwing, and all the children that took part in some sports day type activities with Mr. Asante and Mr. Walton this week as well. We are super proud of all of you, but now you've got to keep up all your efforts, keep fit and keep active, because that helps to keep our minds feeling good too. So next week we will have only 2 weeks of our summer term left, and we are getting very, very excited about welcoming children back in years 2, 3, 4 and 5. Not next week, but the week after, to say goodbye to their old teachers and a really exciting hello to their new ones. We'll be writing out next week to give you more information about what you need to bring and where you need to go. We're getting really, really excited to see you. But until Monday, have a wonderful weekend, and as always, remember, stay safe, stay happy and stay smiling. See you on Monday.